All right, and in similar fashion, let's switch gears here for what is going to be our final round of the knockout bracket. We are into best of 5 mode, so from here on out, everything is best of 5 for WCS Spring, and this fixture has me so excited. We are going into Cass versus Namshar. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, James, you know, this isn't commonly the most exciting fixture. Why are you so excited? Well, they've already played twice this tournament, Rotterdam, and it's been quite flashy to say the least.
Yeah, apparently they even delayed the entire bracket for a little bit because they decided a match in the second group stage, and that is the only reason why they are able to play against each other again in the knockout bracket. If they would have been in the same group in group stage 3, it would not have been possible.
Yeah.
But this was group stage 2. But apparently their second best of 3 legitimately had like a 60-minute game or something, some really long games. And I'm not surprised by that. Cass, from old days, he used to be the macro monster. We all know that he really shines in his macro play. And if I have to think of one defensive Zerg in general in Europe, it's Namshar. Namshar is like a polar opposite of Raynor. Not aggressive with links in general, not too many run-bys. No, it's I defend, I defend, I defend, Roach, Ravager, defend. Eventually, I've got Broodlords, maybe some Infestors, and that's when Namshar pushes.
Sure.
So James, this should be a long one.
No, indeed. And Maynard, looking at this fixture as a whole, I think when a lot of fans of WCS look at this and see Namshar versus Cass from 2018 onwards, they think to themselves, Namshar, no problem, right? However, 2-0, 2-1 in their second match. Can Namshar now overcome what Cass has brought, which has already been a phenomenal result for Cass?
I mean, you nailed it. Rod even brought up that these wins aren't flukes here for Cass.
Yes.
They were pretty solid. Kaz was recently spending some time in the Unity House along with Braddock. A couple of those guys were playing in Korea and practicing very seriously as well. They loved it. I had a little bit of chat with them afterwards about how much they love Korea. And practicing in Korea is the best place to practice if you want to get good at StarCraft. So these guys are definitely leveled up, I'd say. Unfortunately, Braddock not as much as Cass, but he's on stage for a reason.
And let's say that they're both quite the veterans by now as well, right? Maybe Namshar made his entrance into the scene a little bit later than Cass, because Cass is really a 2010, 2011 kind of guy.
Right.
Even back then, he was already attending all the Intel Extreme Masters events and stuff like that, and even going back to Warcraft 3, of course. But Namshar, over the last few years, is no stranger to this stage, and it's just really cool to see that Cass is really making a comeback. I mean, a lot of people were even surprised when they're like, Cass went to Korea? They're like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, yes, he actually went to Korea, guys, together with Braddock, who seems to be like his best buddy. It's really cool.
Yeah.
They have like a little bromance going on. Cass sits on the stage, Braddock stands behind him like his bodyguard or something. It's really cool to see like these two Terran bros are just making each other better. And I think it's going to be an awesome match. And obviously for the fans here, I mean, it's a Ukrainian on stage.
Yeah.
It's got to be really exciting.
No, indeed. Home country advantage is certainly something that sits well here with Cass. Here's our map picks and bans here for our first best of 5 of WCS Spring. Anything you make of it?
A little bit interesting that Namshar vetoed Automaton. It seemed like a map that's good for his style. Other than that, it looks pretty regular.
Maybe he feels like it's too big for Broodlords and it's too easy for Cass to outmaneuver him on it. Yeah,
Maybe he had a rough game on that map against Cass and didn't get to see series.
Yep.
So.
Right.
I really think that we could see some epic long games with potentially a lot of ghosts as well, you know, some snipe action, maybe even some nukes being thrown down.
Oh, baby. My favorite.
I really think this is going to be a long one, guys. Like, I don't know who's casting. I think it's Pig and the Muslim. They're going to have their work cut out for themselves.
Absolutely. All right. Well, these two are almost ready to get into their series here. This best of 5 Cass looking poised and good to go. We're going to hear from the players here from the knockout round to see exactly what they think coming in as well. But let's hear from the Twitch vote results here to start things off. And it is quite close. Twitch votes counting on the potential return for Namshar here to try and get his revenge after 2 lost series against Cass to get things going. So for now, let's hear from our players as to what they think about the knockout bracket here for WCS Spring, moving forwards to try and keep themselves alive.
are here getting ready for that match to warm up day number 2. I am so excited to be kicking things off with a Zerg vs Terran, the rematch of the rematch. I am Pig. Joining me is the Muslim. Are you half as excited as me, Ben?
Mate, this is a blast from the past, absolutely. Like back when I played in the beta a good 10 years ago or so, Cass was honestly one of the best players around. His nickname was the Destroyer of Worlds. His macro, just absolute next level, which was very weird to see from a Warcraft 3 player transitioning. Most of us, we could micro well, but the macro we kind of slipped on a little, and Cass was really one of the front runners of the Warcraft 3 players back a long time ago, but we haven't seen him until now. But he's looking pretty strong after his little trip to Korea, and it's really good to see him here looking so fresh.
Yeah, big smile on his face all throughout. And of course, we are going to be launching straight on into our first map, guys, down here in the bottom right-hand side. In the blue, he is Namshar.
Oh. A little bit of a pause here. The crowd is beautiful here, by the way. So many Ukrainians in this cybersport arena. It's really beautiful to be here. Both these players.
It's always nice when it opens up, isn't it? And you get all the fans in, the energy just kind of floods into the room. And it always is a good way to start things off. Day number 2, of course, we're going to be going into all best-of-5 matches from now on as well, which is very exciting. We get to see a lot more depth to some of these series, and of course just going to sort out a few technical issues there right at the start before we have a chance to fully introduce them. But yeah, I mean, this is a good match to start things off. You were telling me just before the series started, you heard tell there was quite a few mechios going on.
Absolutely. So yeah, Cass, upon returning from Korea, even his mech has been making a show in TvZ, which is really uncommon. So the fact that he's playing mech against Zerg, that makes a lot of sense. But I know he's a player that can absolutely do everything. I haven't seen a hell of a lot of him, but upon his return to Korea, which was really unexpected, by the way, all of a sudden there was this account called MMR Police that starts sneaking up the ladder, and this guy reached like 6.5, 6.6k MMR. And it's like, who's this pretty good Terran with like a kind of unique style? Eventually we found out, oh, it's Cass, you know, like he's actually got that good again. So it's very nice to see him here. Namshar, he's been a guy that's like always been overshadowed by a lot of those Scandinavian Zergs, be it Snoop back in the day or Serral nowadays, but he's very, very solid. He has a very by the like textbook style, right? Like, doesn't scout that much, does his own thing. He almost plays against the computer and then like kind of reacts to what his opponent's doing and such. But here we get to see the admin talking to Namshar a little bit, but Namshar seems pretty bright in spirits, actually, smiling away. Yeah, of course. You know, you got to stay calm whenever there's issues, make sure that's all sorted. And Namshar is one of those guys, like you just said. I like how you said that. It's like he just wants to play the matchup. You know, I think he drew a lot of inspiration from Snoot's style. Snoot was one of these players who used to love to try to do the same solid opening and play against his opponent's race rather than the player. And Namshar loves to do that. In Zerg vs Protoss, we'd often see him not scouting to see if it was a Stargate or a Robo or a Twilight back in the old days. He'd just build spores in case it was a Stargate and build a Roach Warren in case it was ground play. He'd just cover every option, but he'd try to focus on never missing a single lava, always getting his drones out, never hitting a supply block. So he kind of spent a long time honing those mechanics and definitely just kind of focused on trying to have the perfect execution. It's funny when you talk about Namshar because quite a lot of the time in his Zerg versus Zerg in Europe, it's a bit of a meme that he'll make 4 links, then go up to 66 drones, then just make roaches and ravages. But we are back into the game rather, and spawning in the top left side as our Red Terran, it is Cass. As you can tell from the claps and the cheers, a hometown hero over here in Ukraine.
Oh yeah. It's always so nice to be able to play on a stage in front of your own countrymen. It's not something we get to do very often as most pro gamers, but you know, it's going to be a good way to start things out. This, of course, was Namshar's map pick, King's Cove. He opted for the larger maps. I think he also picked Year Zero as the 3rd map in this series, whereas I think Kairos, Junction, and maybe like even Cyber Forest, the smaller maps for Cass. So it feels like Namshar does want those bigger maps. Cass wanting there to be a little bit less distance between him and the Zerg player so we can put on that aggression.
Definitely. And here we see the first Overlords of Namshar taking unusual routes, but it's mainly looking for proxy 2-raxes, just making sure that none of that cheeky stuff will throw him off. I mean, these guys have already played 2 long series together, so you start to get a feel of your opponent and can start thinking like, what does he do? Because even this is unusual from Cass, using an SCV to scout. And I mean, if you go for a gas first, it means that you don't follow up with the Marine after the Reaper, so just even though he is against a fairly predictable player, I don't exactly know what happened in those series. So just being very safe is Cass.
Yeah, I like that point, Ben. Namshar's the sort of player which some, people say, let's cut a corner, let's be greedy, let's skip the scouting, let's be a bit greedier. But Cass definitely has some respect after their earlier series. He's going to look for the block on that third base potentially as well. Namshar says, okay, no worries. I'll just go back to mining on my 2 bases. I know you can block that.
And there, Namshar was actually saving up his gas to actually make the third hatch before the speed. Just a little shortcut, right? Little corner cutting. But upon seeing that SV, he was like, no, okay, I'm not going to do that. You've already thrown me off a little bit, but it's not as if that is like game-changing or anything like that. He knew exactly what to do as a response. So already we see some nice moves from both these players.
Reaper is going to come in and fish for a couple of Zergling kills. Does not manage to get any just yet. Good defense by Namshar. Of course, it's a gas-first Reaper. It's not the fastest Reaper you can get on one of the biggest maps in the pool. You don't really expect to get any actual direct damage. Already being able to deny the third base. Cass is very happy with that opening. Hellions on the way behind this. And, battle cruisers are something we've seen so much of in the last few weeks. I wonder if we might see that, the rare unicorn sort of build that I wish we'd see more, but we never do. Range Liberators, I feel, is so good on this map.
It is, but I think also normal Liberators are very good on this map. The bases, like the mineral lines, are all against the edge of the map, such as the second, very against the map, third, also very against the map. So it's very easy to sneak those Liberators in. Depending on what Cass is going to do here, this third gas is extremely fast, by the way, Pig, which is quite indicative of something a little strange, a little more unorthodox, because you don't need that much gas. And yes, we do see a fusion core already being made here.
I was like, it's got to be for an upgrade, right? There's got to be, Yamato is getting a lot more popular. So I think it will be the Yamato follow-up to that. He's going to open up with a Liberator. So just Hellion pressure, very, very light here on the ground so far. A Liberator will follow that up and then a Battle Cruiser. And this is a cool way to just apply pressure to the Zerg player. Really on the maps where there's enough space for you to hide the Battle Cruiser on the edge of the map in the dead space, that increases the power of the Battle Cruiser pressure so much because you can always just get out of safety, get out of a bad spot, hide in the corner, get your blink back up and then teleport home.
Very unusual though. Upon seeing this third gas, Namshar's going to know something is a little bit off here. Like, something's a bit weird. It's not upgrading Cloak. There's no tech lab on the barracks. So it's like, okay, what's he getting done? Does he actually go into... Did he see the edge there? Ooh. Oh, it is Liberator range. Wow. You did talk about it, Pig.
Wow. I mean, that would be so cool if he commits to it. Of course, it could have just been he kind of clicked on something, but no, he's queuing up a second lib. He's committing to it 100%. The Overlord does see this, and you might be thinking, oh, that's a fake cloak. It could be battle cruisers. We've seen very fast Neural Parasite as an answer to battle cruiser rushes recently, but that would be terrible against this. Neural Parasite is not going to reach range Liberators sieging up your bases, so this here, an interesting scenario. Cass, of course, is going to slow down his build-up. He's getting his third command center down, but his production, his upgrades are going to be way behind, but he's looking to do damage. And oh, you can't afford to lose any of these Liberators. That's a lot of damage going down on it.
Definitely is, but if he can get into the back base here behind the main and just wait for Liberator range, there is still potential for that Liberator to come in very, very handy. Now, what is Namshar's response? Because this Liberator hasn't done anything yet. He's got a Queen here, he's got a Spore ready. And by the way, tank follow-up and Marines before anything else, like any engineering base or armories go down, this is very unusual by Cass, but I'm liking it.
Yeah, he is dropping more factories, so it's going to be mech coming down behind this as expected. The creep spread for Namshar is looking so good. Oh, no.
Oh, by the way, I love how Namshar did that. He used a few lings to bait the first shots that weren't at his main cluster of lings. So really pounce on that. And look, this Liberator coming in strong already, and this is very annoying. How often do you play against a ranged Liberator? I can tell you, not very. This Spore, oh, and another one coming in here too. This is a lot of damage being done, honestly, even if it's just a lack of mining being done.
Yeah, this is really big. A third Lib is also building. That Queen does get in range, but she's going to fall for now. So Namshar has to bring all his Queens over to get the mining back up. The main base is indefensible. You just cannot get in there. These Queens are going to die for it. Is Cass quick enough to unsiege and get out of there? No, he's going to try to take down the fight, but the Queens with a good snipe. Namshar able to get 2 bases back to healthy mining, but the main being so disrupted. Are his drones long-distance mining from the 4th, or are they just stacked up on the 3rd base?
I think he's just got them stacked up here on the main, actually.
Oh, they're just idling, yeah.
So yeah, even though he's had a significant worker lead for quite some time here, this is definitely good damage being done. And again, another Liberator joins the fray. This one in the main will be shut down most likely. And oh, nice transfuses by Namshar as well. But still, decent damage being done by Cass. This is just so annoying.
Yeah.
Something to really throw you off track and off beat as well, because we did talk about Namshar being a guy that almost just plays his own game, right? This is not the game that he wants to be playing right now. This is really
Not
weird
at
at all.
all.
Lots of drones burning there to that lip.
You know, Namshar is known for his Viper usage against Mac. He loves his Hydralisk Viper. But it looks like he's going to that Spire and Hive now. So I think Broodlords definitely might be the option here on this map. Blue Flame's on the way. The 3 bases getting established with nothing interrupting him. Cass has literally nothing disrupting his own flow or rhythm on his side of the map right now.
And you know, TvZ is definitely one of those matchups where you can say that Zerg, when they hit their stride, they are unstoppable. This is so much damage by them. So it's usually the Terran having to get stuff done. And Cass, he's going to be looking very, very happy after getting all this damage done. And a very quick Hive and Spire on the way. So it does look like Namshar, his next stage of development, is going for Broodlords and such.
Yeah, Liberators versus the Queen. A lot of transfuses going down, but that Liberator does fall. Namshar finally pushing back those Liberators. 3 have fallen down. He says, cool, I've managed to, you know, not die, but a lot of workers have died. Tons of mining time have gone down. More Liberators continuing to be so annoying. And this is just Cass dictating the pace of the game. You know, Namshar, definitely the faster player usually, but Cass is not giving him a chance to leverage that. Cass is the one who's just taking all the swings right now, and he is going to start to clear that creep in the middle. The creep has slowed down a lot. Namshar, of course, being very occupied dealing with those Liberators.
So these Lings are pretty much useless at this point in time. Dealing with Blue Flame Hellions, it's rough. So he's just trying to get some vision on the map, seeing if he could dart into the 3rd base and maybe deal damage, but Cass was on top of that. But we do have to say that those Liberators could have definitely been used a little bit better. But here, he is fighting next to the creep. If he gets any Cyclones, it's great. And Namshar gets his kill and gets back.
You know, the one thing that's so powerful about BattleMech is its efficiency, the way you can keep the Zerg back and start to expand across the map, out-expanding the Zerg player even. You can see Cass here up in supply. He's, you know, looking really healthy. However, he hasn't started any upgrades on those armories. I don't even know if he's actually got an armory. He does not just yet. And it's hard to finish the Zerg player off. If the Zerg comes off creep, Cass will annihilate him. But on creep, it just swings upside down. The Cyclones can't actually force the issue, and this gives a player like Namshar a lot of time to build up. He's got 5 Vipers on the way. He's got Broodlord tech on the way. He's got his 2/2 upgrades. Namshar is going to be able to get to the later stages of this game.
This is getting a little bit scary, actually, because this supply is very inflated by Cass, because very soon he's going to be up against a 2/2 upgraded Zerg, and even though Cyclone Lock-On doesn't really care about upgrades, the rest of your army do, and those Cyclones spend a lot of time actually auto-attacking when they aren't locking on, and these Hellions can't even turn into Hellbats for this next fight.
Yeah, the armories only just went down now at almost the 10-minute mark. I think that's got to be an oversight by Cass. Normally, the armor upgrades are so important. Having a +1 or a +2 armor right now would be huge. He is just going to look to poke in and out. Of course, for those of you who haven't seen this composition before, BattleMech...
What pig? The upgrade for Cyclones actually came in so late as well. Like that upgrade in this matchup, that deals double damage to any armored units such as Roaches, Vipers. Pretty much is pure composition right here. It doesn't deal that extra damage to Hydras, but that's just absolutely rendered him useless for the time being. And that upgrade takes a much longer time to upgrade now ever since the patch change.
And that's so important because those Roaches buffer for the Hydras. If the Hellions can get straight on top of the Hydras look very fragile, but with the Roaches in front, they look okay. You need the mag field to annihilate those Roaches quickly so that your Hellions can get on top.
Pig, those Vipers, they did see those Liberators sharking around the map, and those, that's a really, really costly loss for Cass, because he needs to keep getting damage done. Like, he needs to buy time for his upgrades, because right now, it's 0-0 against 2-2. 4 Liberators at a time, by the way, and 3 CCs all at once. Like, Cass is definitely rich, and he's still getting stuff done, but his army is pretty weak right now.
Yeah, I mean, the dream scenario for the Terran is you suddenly add 8, 10, 12 range Liberators to this composition and the Zerg doesn't have Vipers out. Guess what, Ben? He's got 8 Vipers. He's got a couple of parasitic bombs and abducts in there, so the answer to the Liberators is definitely available, and I think that's a real shame for Cass, and because of that, he's going to be more harassment focused. Liberators coming in from the edges, sending in some Hellion counters would also be incredible. Namshar doesn't actually have a lot of mobile defense right now, but we are seeing a very front-on engage here. Abducts coming in, and a lot of those valuable units being pulled into the Hydralisks, but a lot of Cyclone damage going down as well. Namshar going back and forth, protecting those Vipers, and just yanking those valuable Cyclones into their death.
you know what? Nice micro on both fronts, actually. They're both doing exactly what they need to do. Cass has to stay back behind these Liberators, but he also needs to protect the Liberators, so you're getting this kind of dance of death, but the PF is now up. This 5th base is secured, and he's feeling good. Even dealing counter damage on the other side of the map, but Namshar's macro, his economy right now, his bank is huge, and I really wonder what he's going to switch into. Even double Spire for upgrades, so he's really nailing it on those upgrades. Oh, the Viper's big! Oh, this is huge!
Oh, no! That is devastating. That is so much of Namshar's gas gone. And look at it. He's not even max. He's using all of his gas to try and replenish. That is a devastating loss for Namshar. Cass distracting with the range Liberator harass and pouncing on those Vipers in the middle of the map.
Not just that, that's a lot of energy that he has to regain through eating up his buildings. And right now, Namshar's going to be feeling fairly vulnerable. Hasn't been able to get out any Corruptors at this point in time either. And I mean, Broodlords, they are pretty darn strong against Cyclone Hellion. Now, the next form of evolution for Cass here, we've got more Orbitals joining the fray, more command centers, Thors as well, and finding a little group of Ragtag Hydras over here, getting some good damage done.
The Hellion splash on Hydras on their own, that is always nasty. The Cyclones coming in, they're going to lock on and just make that hatchery evaporate. Double Lib Harass on the right-hand side, but Namshar has been so good at blocking this after that early game. Vipers desperately trying to get up enough energy to defend these bases. Namshar's 6th base does fall on the left-hand side. These Hellions, these Cyclones, these Liberators starting to push in deeper. The lock-ons on the hatchery, Ben. The lock-ons on the hatchery. It's getting dangerously low.
Oh, but Namshar, his army is very scary, and he's already mustered a lot of Vipers together with full energy here. Does look like he's getting maybe a flank ready, or maybe just wanting to stop reinforcements at this point in time, but the base is going to fall. But Cass, he's getting flanked by a mass amount of Namshar here. This is a crazy flank by him, and that army utterly cleaned up here.
Yeah, killing a base is nice, but that is a ton of units to pay the price with. And remember, still only at 1-1 upgrades up against the 3-3 of Namshar. +2 vehicle weapons is on the way, but Cass only now starting up that vehicle plating. And more Liberators caught on the harassment path. These units can be such a frustration for the Zerg player. This Liberator down here doing a huge amount in of itself, but the fact that the other Liberators keep getting caught in the middle of the map is a huge turn in favor of Namshar.
Oh, Namshar, his Vipers are running low at this point in time, so he doesn't have that many abducts left. Vipers also getting kind of locked down by the Cyclones, but this is a very vulnerable spot. This is where his rally was, and there isn't really a lot for Cass. In fact, 150 supply here. He's getting absolutely massacred here.
That's it. Those orbitals, that's the real just belly of his economy right there. The Liberator's trying to siege up from the high ground, but a lot of these orbital command centers going down, 20 SCVs as well. Cass looked so rich for so long in this game, but these Hydras having something to say about that. Cass finally does rally together a few Thors, Hellions, and Cyclones. He is going to push this out, but not before a lot of economic damage was done there by Namshar.
Absolutely, and Namshar, I think he retreated with the bulk of his Vipers as well, so they're going back home somewhere just to regenerate even more energy. In fact, he didn't lose them, did he? There we go. They are, that is an energy farm if I've ever seen one here. Getting his Vipers up and ready, and those are the real way to take away those really valuable units. Those Thors that we just saw, they're going to be rendered useless by those abducts fairly soon, and even Blinding Clouds if he wants to.
Blinding Cloud as well, yeah. It's definitely good to have some sort of anchor to your army like those Thors, especially if like Broodlords come out. But it's just the numbers for Cass. Now, I feel like Namshar, he still doesn't have like tons of static or anything, so I would love to see some more Blue Flame Hellion harass, some more Liberators. He's just got to, you know, actually slide them in. He can't keep getting this harassment caught. And for now, Cass just has to sit back. Namshar's entire army on the other side of the map. Hellions on the south side are going to go into his economy. Namshar with some beautiful abducts, just yoinking all of those Thors into that army of Roach Hydra.
That was really good Viper usage by Namshar and Cass. His army has been shattered. Those Hellion run-bys that you asked for, though, getting counter damage done, but is it too little too late at this point? The PF, this is a real standpoint for Cass, and the PF goes down, and Namshar is still rich as hell over here.
Wow, the Roach Hydra Viper push is insurmountable at this point. Only a few Hellions and Liberators coming out. They're not there just yet. Whilst the Hellion counterattack did some big damage on the other side of the map, Cass gonna have to type out GG.
Really impressive game by Namshar there. It looked like he got his idea together. He got his Roach Hydra Viper, and it was just like, I'm going to rinse and repeat here. I'm going to pick off your army, retreat with the Vipers. It's almost like it all got delayed by the initial Viper flock being murdered by the Cyclones. But Namshar, his idea there of how to pick apart Cass worked out really well, and it never felt like Cass really got able to get going. I mean, the whole game he was fighting at a huge upgrade deficit as well, so his army didn't collide as well as he wanted it to.
Yeah, exactly. That was a really interesting matchup there where the Liberators were very frustrating in the early game, but I think Namshar handled it quite coolly. It's very easy to get thrown off against that, but he pulled his drones off the mining. I think getting one of those early Liberator snipes was very big, because I think there's a point where if there's 3 Liberators all alive, all kind of shifting position, and you're trying to deal with that with just Queens and Spore Crawlers, you're in a very bad position. But Namshar, quite methodical in how he dealt with it. Great creep spread throughout the chaos as well, and did manage to hang on and stabilize.
I actually really like the choice of strategy for Cass. Like, when you're playing a best of 5, it's not so much about, like, what's the best strategy to do. Often it's like, okay, I'm going to throw off my opponent for the rest of this series, letting him know that I can actually do anything. So I like the fact that he went for that. So few of these Liberators, though, very often you can just cover, like, 1 mineral patch, and it'll be enough to make it, like, the drones keep going there, you'd, like, delay the mining. I kept feeling that, if I'm being a little bit critical, that he was trying to cover too much with the Liberators.
A little bit too greedy there with it,
right, yeah, because covering 1 mineral patch is as good as covering, like, 3 or 4, honestly.
And that's because the AI means the workers, if you've got any more than, say, 4 or 5 workers, they're inevitably going to start bouncing over to that mineral patch saying, hey, there's a fresh mineral patch to mine from. So I definitely like that point from you, Ben. You know, usually most maps have a spot on each mineral line, right? Especially one like that with so much dead space on the edge. There's like a specific angle where you can just get that tiny little sliver of coverage on the minerals. But, you know, did still get some nice damage done. It was looking okay there for Cass. Other than that, I would have liked to see those Liberators just going right on the very edge of the map a little bit more. Obviously, when the abducts happened with that double Liberator harassment, you can't do anything against that. But a few more Hellion counterattacks in there as well might have been nice, because Namshar there was so focused on the frontal engagement. His army was so immobile with just pure Roach Hydra Viper for such a long time. And another choice besides that, what do you think of splitting the Cyclone Hellion army if you get to max and like kind of pushing 2 sides at once?
It gets tough, right? Like, I feel that's a tempo thing. Like, on both sides, you want to be winning the whole time, whereas if you just mess up one little time, you don't look at the army and the roaches get on top of you and you lose like 3 or 4 Cyclones more, you just end up losing both sides. So very often that's more about a tempo thing, getting ahead very early on. And when you commit so much to the Liberators, getting that tempo going, getting the amount of Cyclones that you actually need to win the fights gets very, very difficult. And you saw how much focus Namshar put early on to just focusing the Cyclones only, not the Hellions, not attack moving. So Namshar played very well against it too.
Yeah, it was some very nice play from both players there. And it was just a good way to start off the day, I think. You know, a big map, King's Cove, battle mech going up against Roach Hydra Viper.
And a strange battle mech too, with the ranged Liberators being the opening. Like, that was very bizarre, but you saw how it could work out really well, and it did work out for a little bit.
It was actually very surprising, because like I really did think that was Yamato. I was like, oh, I wish we saw more ranged Liberators like in the old days. And I'm like, it's actually happening. This is like so rare in pro play right now.
Yeah. It was definitely the 3rd gas that made it very weird, because you only actually need 2 gases to get out a BC, and then the single BC strat is also pretty darn strong right now. It can definitely throw Zergs off, but the 3rd gas upon Namshar scouting that, I like his reaction. I actually find that a lot of Zergs tend to go for like 3 Ravagers just to clean up the Liberators. That used to be the old school style, you know, when the Liberators used to be even stronger. But he didn't need it. He used Queens pretty damn well. Only lost 18 drones to like 3 or so libs as well. Yeah,
the Ravager response is a bit dangerous, right? Like, you've seen it where you get it and you get all 3 Ravagers out and you transfuse them, you go rinse and repeat. And then there's the ones where you miss the bile slightly by 1 little pixel, you lose a Ravager and you're like, oh no, now I need to make another Ravager. And then or you go to cast the biles and the player's watching, they unsiege and like dodge it at the last second and you're like, oh man, like this gets really bad because it's so expensive to get out those gas units early and then to start losing them to the Liberators as well as the mining time, it's very dangerous.
There is one thing that Namshar did very well, by the way. Like, he realized and assessed that he was against ranged Liberators, and he knew there wasn't going to be any super strong ground follow-up with that because the amount of gas, the amount of tech that you need to get that going. So he just droned like a madman. Like, he went up to a good, like, 75 drones when Cass is on 50. So even though he was taking damage from those libs, he made the right call in saying, like, I'm not going to actually get attacked by anything else besides these for quite some time. So he droned up as much as he needed to, and that's why he, like, got so far ahead early on, it felt.
Yeah. It was, oh man, it's such an interesting style because we've seen this kind of coming out more, and we see some players, of course, going multiple battle cruisers. We see battle cruisers being mixed in all game long sometimes, using Yamato gun for the style. We see these styles where the Terran player doesn't really want to push in, but just kind of wants to sit back a little bit more. Of course, there are a lot of matches going on at the same time right now.
Oh, Mana Kelazor 1-1. In fact, those are two very evenly skilled players, and that feels like, honestly, whenever I see Kelazor play, he also brings out something very evil, very fresh. He's one of the most aggressive Terrans out there, but he can also macro like an absolute beast, and quite often you're not absolutely ready for Kelazor because he seems to be able to practice everywhere. Korea, he's actually living in Europe right now, so he's got a mix of all styles in total.
Yeah, he's that diverse Terran for sure. Skillus, of course, has had an epic run through the lower brackets so far, knocking out players like Soul.
Risky as well.
Risky, Salir, a lot of really good players there. So TLO, you know, has his work cut out for him in that Zerg versus Protoss match as well.
And going on to the next game of this series, it will be Kairos Junction. Now, the first map was Namshar's pick, correct? With King's Cove.
Yes, that was Namshar, so it's Kairos, and then Year Zero is Namshar's pick for map 3.
And this is a much smaller map. I like this map for being kind of flat for Cyclones. There's not too many hills for Zerg to run up and get out of your vision in the middle of the map, so you can really kind of track down those roaches. Now, it is nice for creep spread, given that a lot of ground is flat, so you can get that really going, because you need creep spread against Cyclone Heli, and you absolutely do. Otherwise, you have no chance of tracking down those Cyclones.
Exactly. It's incredible how powerful it is, right? The Cyclones are this really good ranged unit. You know, it's like the devastating striker as long as you don't get in close with them, because if they ever get flanked by a pack of roaches somehow out positioning them, coming in from behind, if there's ever a sandwich or a fungal lands on them, you just see the entire army disappear. I was watching a great match between Serral and Clem yesterday on Year Zero, and Clem was going toe-to-toe with Serral, and it was just doing really good. And there was these two infestors waiting on the edge of this cliff on the high ground for like 6 minutes, and eventually like Clem, like not knowing about it, like stepped in range, this fungal landed, and like his whole army just evaporated to Serral jumping on top of it. And I was like, okay, yep, the Battle Mech army looks really, really powerful, but
until you fungal it.
Oh, it's so fragile, man.
That's the thing, it's the most glass cannon army in the game. I mean, Cyclones went from being this kind of busty unit that was pretty strong to, okay, we're going to nerf their health by 50%, but we're also going to give them a lock on that absolutely destroys things. So very much a unit that you have to be keeping an eye on from both sides of the game at all points in time.
Oh, yeah. All right, Cass's PC had a slight technical issue before, but it has all been fixed, and both players are good and ready to go. Sorry for the delay on getting into map number 2, guys, but it's about to happen here. It's a great start to day number 2. Day number 3 tomorrow is where we're going to see all of the final matches, but we are in Knockout Town today. Everything we see from now on in the tournament, players are being eliminated and their tournament lives are on the line.
That's what we really have to emphasize here. No longer is there a safety net. This is it. And this is when you're getting into the real depths of the money pool here. Getting into like is this for the top 24 here or?
Yeah. I mean, after this match, you get through to that round of 24 to play against the second place finishes in that group stage number 3.
Anyhow, to introduce these players, spawning in the top left as our Blues are currently 1-0 up, it is Namshar. And he played really good in that first series as well. Like, he got thrown a bit of a curveball there and handled it very well.
And down here in the bottom right-hand side, in the red, he is Cass.
I love the crowd here, cheering on both players, but you definitely hear it when cheering for their Ukrainian.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Cass immediately starting off with something a little bit different here. Racks before the gas, which means usually you go for a Reaper, then a Marine, a little bit safer. You can also deny that Overlord a little bit better. You don't necessarily have to worry about the Ling run by or the pool first build either. So this is something that, you know, he's already mixing things up a little bit. So definitely playing the series and playing the player.
I always like the Reaper on these smaller maps coming out as fast as possible. Maybe get a drone, pick off a few Zerglings, put that pressure on nice and early. You know, Kairos Junction, a map with not nearly as much space between the two of you as King's Cove. It's like those big winding paths with cliffs and destructible rocks separating you. Here, it's really just, you know, skipping a stone's throw across the map and you're into your opponent's natural. So definitely one where pushers are going to be getting over there a lot quicker.
Was Namshar only using 2 drones to mine gas there as well, by the way? Oh, okay, now he's up to 3. So
prioritizing the minerals a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, for getting up that earlier third, given that this player that he's playing against did go for a really fast block. So maybe he goes for a much earlier third just to avoid the possibility of that SCV showing up this game. Who knows?
Yeah, if there's one player who is obsessed with having a strong mineral base to his economy, it's Namshar, right?
We do see that drone moving out a little bit earlier, so he too is mixing up his play a little bit. And these may seem like very small things, him delaying his gas mining just a tad to get extra minerals, but to get up an earlier third this time, given that his opponent did block it, these are little fixes in their play that you do change when you play against certain players.
Yeah. We didn't see the early Hellions diving for Cass too much, and that's always a threat if you delay your link speed a bit too much, but this is a Barracks gas build as well, so the Hellions aren't out nearly as fast. Nice Reaper micro there. Did force 2 drones off the line. He's going to keep diving. Okay, no.
He's not that ballsy. He's not that crazy.
I was like, is he about to go full NA ladder right now?
Pig, look at the production tab. That's a second CC on the way immediately here. So this is a very unusual build too.
Yeah.
Very greedy. But given you're playing against a player like Namshar that is also very greedy, you've also already got the Marine out to deny potentially the scouting too. I like this mix-up from Cass again.
Yeah, I haven't seen this into mech nearly as much as, for a long time this was the meta, going into the 3 racks, bio production, and then the metavacs and all that sort of stuff. But into mech, definitely having more minerals is big. Battle mech, lots of Hellions in the composition. You want to be mass expanding a lot as well. It's all about the minerals to keep your economy blooming. This Reaper just going for a scout, confirming what's up. Namshar, not one known for all-inning, but he does see only 1 worker mining gas, and the Reaper's going to get out of there. Yeah, nicely done.
This Reaper is not really about dealing damage. You can deal indirect damage by pulling drones off the line, maybe splitting your opponent's attention so he doesn't produce as many drones as he possibly can do. But you really want to keep it alive because it goes very well with the Hellions. The Reaper can take a few pokes from the Queen so you can fight for that creep a little bit better and then regenerate continuously, whereas the Hellions, without that Reaper, they cannot do that at all. Now, Namshar looks like he will be getting in a pretty good Overlord scout here, so he's really got his timings down for when to send in those Overlords, because this is the 2nd game in a row where he sees a lot of valuable information here. Oh, fake concussive shell as well. Kind of faking out Stim here.
Faking out Stim a little bit, yeah. Nice to just throw in that, make it look like it is bio play. And Namshar, will he bite the bait? He's already going Baneling tech, but of course Hydra Bane, not a bad composition against mech at all. And an immediate cancel on the upgrade, swaps that over. And I'd expect 2 factories to be going down in the near future as well. Double Evo chamber on the way here for Namshar. 45 drones to 38 SCVs. Economies are relatively even right here. The creep spread starting to blossom onto this map. The Hellions and the Reapers starting to have a bit of a poke around. The Banshee's going to join up with those. And Cass is all just about trying to control Namshar's growth a little bit. Meanwhile, Cass exploding into his own production and economy back at home.
I like how Namshar's not overmaking Lings, though. Like, this is a pretty decent amount to hold this off. And a lot of players can panic very quickly, but he seems very calm about how he's doing this. Not overcommitting with the Lings either, just keeping everything back. And this Cloak, or rather this Banshee, he saw that the Tech Lab on the starport wasn't actually doing anything. Still gets Spore Crawlers, though, because it is a worry. Could be a game-ending move, and I mean, better safe than sorry, right?
Just 1 drone there for the Banshee. He does take a heavy bruising. Going to have to back off for now. Melee and Carapace on the way. That tells me that Namshar has bought the bait, and then he swaps it. He realizes, nah, I think this is Battle Mech. He must have seen some sort of scouting tell. I think he saw more Hellions here at the Natural just before with those Zerglings. So I think he's pretty confident that this is in fact the mech play, and says, you know what, armor upgrade's not very important against mech. Having an extra armor doesn't do anything against Cyclone, Lock-On, or Siege Tank shots. Let's go for melee and ranged upgrades. And I wouldn't be surprised to see, Infestation Pit is already down. Namshar loves rushing to those Vipers. They're his favorite anti-mech unit in the game.
Armor upgrades actually help a little bit when it gets to the Blue Flame Hellion against the Hydra situation.
Yeah.
But until then, not really at all. But it depends. If he wants to go Roaches on his front line, they help take a lot of the Hellion shots later on. So
or even Banelings as well kind of does the same thing, right?
Banelings are surprisingly decent tanks, because even if they die, they deal damage, and like there's so many of them. They take the lock-ons instead of your more valuable units. Lings as well can take the lock-on. Archons. I mean, they're not too decent against the Hellions, but still. Oh, if this gets in, this could be quite a bit of damage being done by Namshar.
Yeah, splitting into all 3 mineral lines. The Cyclone at the third is just going to try and distract a little bit, but a lot of SCVs taking damage. Good micro from Cass, but still quite a few SCVs going down.
Not as bad as it could have been. A lot of players might have left their SCVs to just keep on mining and such, but he chose to attack, move back into the Lings, and Namshar actually split quite a lot back into the third, which I'm not sure. I think if he actually just committed completely to that natural and wiped out the mineral line, that would have probably been better for him.
Yeah, I agree there. I think definitely having a bit more concentrated damage output would have been nice. But we are going to see Cass trying to hunt these Lings down. Namshar is just... I feel like this is such a good move by Namshar. He's like, yeah, chase these Zerglings. Look at my creep spread, mate. It's covering the entire map.
Ooh, and those Banelings. How far is Baneling speed along the way too? Meaning they could, if he actually waited a good 10 seconds or so, they could run full
Yeah, he
throttle.
stops, he turns around.
Good moves, good moves.
He can hear your voice, Ben. Namshar there, of course, knowing it's a good idea to wait. Baneling speed on creep. You've got to get out of there, Cass. Cass going way too deep on creep. And at the same time, Baneling's into the mineral line. A few of those Banelings derp out and go for the Cyclones, but good micro by Namshar. Prioritize that. Another 8 SCVs going down. And now the economy lead is just big. 76 workers to 53. Hydra Bane is out. The Hive's halfway done. This is a very good anti-battle mech army. The Hydras and the Banelings just going to pull back whenever there's a scan. But otherwise, if they can catch those units surprised with a flank or on creep spread, Cass's army will evaporate.
The main thing I take away from this is the fact that even though Namshar has been under quite a bit of pressure, he's been able to do so much counter damage and also still get up to 83 drones while all this is going on. Creep spread is still fairly decent as well. He's up to 4 bases now. It's been a very different Namshar, actually. I'm not used to seeing so many counterattacks from him, but they are getting some damage done. They are being really annoying.
Yeah, this is a great way to play the series here. A Cyclone is going to go down, as well as a few SCVs being focused. The depot being lowered to the main base, and those Zerglings just going to continue to buy so much time. It's not even so much about the direct damage as it is about the time, the attention. Namshar just controlling the pace of this game. He's got 7 Vipers on the way, Ben. 7 Vipers. Oh man, Namshar absolutely loving this composition. This is a very, very powerful position. Cass still has a big army though.
So given that Namshar has actually been ahead now in this game for quite some time, meeting these Hellions, so this is a nice defense, nice hold by Cass. But Cass, given that he is behind, he's the one that has to make the moves now because Namshar, he's been dealing so much damage, and right now Namshar has a few choices. He can either let Cass come to him, or he can keep on doing what's been working for him this whole game because it's Cass. The ball is in his court right now.
Yeah, we are going to see a 4th base going down there. Namshar trying to expand in a straight line down the south of this map, but actually being a little bit slow to respread his creep through the middle and on the south side. And Siege Tanks added in now. Beautiful addition against the Hydra Baneling. The Vipers, I think they've got energy though, so those tanks are going to have trouble here. But a bit of a surprise. Takes out a lot of the Banelings there. More and more morphing of ducks coming in, but a lot of the Banelings actually do explode on those Siege Tanks and Cyclones. And it's mostly just Hydras left over. The Hellions may be able to push in, but no, that's just too many Hydralisks.
I tell you what, though, that was definitely well handled by both of them. A lot of Banelings died to those tank fire, but Banelings at this point in time, they're not necessarily what you want to be spending your gas on. The Hydras do a really good job. The Vipers do an insane job. You need a few Lings to be kind of like the meat shield with the Cyclones, because they run in before the Vipers, right? They take the lock-ons, which is very annoying for the Terran player. But Namshar, he really feels like he's got his formula sorted out against this kind of style, getting up to Hydras and Vipers so quickly. It's working very well for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like Broodlords might be the next addition, but for now I think Hydra Bane, Viper, and just good engagements is all Namshar needs. We see a little bit of split harassment here on all sides of the map. Zerglings get roasted by the Planetary, the Banshee being a little bit of a pain. That is that one Banshee from the early game. And these Hellions and Cyclones just keeping that creep spread back. That's really powerful. If you let Namshar take that high ground, then he has the high ground above your 3rd base. That's not a Planetary Fortress. It's a very dangerous position.
Oh, is Cass being caught out a little bit here? Yes. Caught with his pants down a little bit here. Even grouping up these tanks. A blinding cloud on those 3 would be really good. Does actually go for it. Just goes for the abducts, and right now...
Oh, the fire!
So much carnage.
those Hellions coming in there, some of them quickly morphing into Hellbats. A lot of Hydralisks fell in that engagement, but a ton of Cyclones and Hellions went down as well. Both sides bleeding out large numbers of units here. Namshar, the one on the 83 drone economy, though, more able to replenish. He's got his 3-2 upgrades on the way. He's got the Great Aspire about halfway done, and he's got this 5th and 6th base secured at the same time.
With a few idle drones over there, it has to be said, and they are still just having a good little picnic with their minerals. But yeah, he's getting ready for the next stage of the game. Like with that Broodlord switch, he's already getting the Corruptors out this game, which is a little bit different than before. And given that Cass has been a little unusual with his army choice, right? Like siege tanks are a bit unusual. Even the Vikings are a tad unusual. Often you see when you go for Cyclone mech, you stick with the Cyclone mech, and then you add in the Liberators like he did the first game, but really mixing it up here. But Namshar, he's getting ready. Like the Broodlords decimate this kind of army.
Yeah, Hellbat Morph on the north side is going to be nice and annoying,
Oy.
but oh, that's a lot of +2 melee Zerglings.
And yeah, +2 melee against 0-0 upgraded SCVs, and they absolutely massacred that mineral line. And Cassie's done a good job of like rebuilding the SCVs, but still, this is damage you can't really be affording at this point in time.
Yeah, the Vipers here are going to just pull these Vikings into their death. Very nicely done there. Of course, those Vikings wanting to bleed the Viper count down. They want to try and reduce that to take out Namshar's renewability in his army.
That is scary, Pig. 8 Broodlords on the way. He's also getting Corruptors as well to try and take out some of those Vikings in the sky. So he's getting the perfect army together. If he wants to really put the cherry on the cake, he'll be getting a few Infestors out at this point in time too.
Ooh, Baneling's Hydra is going to come back in time. The Hellbat attack going to achieve not a lot. And Namshar in complete control of this game. His +3 melee is going to be finished, and these Broodlords are going to do an amazing amount of damage. That's a mostly siege tank army. There's 2 Cyclones and 2 Vikings. That's the anti-air, and that's not enough.
Absolutely not. And these tanks are going to be killing themselves more than they're going to be killing the Zerg here. Actually, Cass is kind of focus firing on the Hydras as much as he can here. The Broodlings, though, now they're going to be working, and GG. Cass knows it's over as the Broodlords show up, and Namshar takes a very convincing second game, honestly. He made no real errors this game, and Cass just looked like letting in a few of these Lingram buys kind of scrambled him up a little bit, but Namshar looks like he's very cool and calculated on the stage, and Cass, you see it, a little bit stressed out here.
You know, it's kind of tough when you've beaten the same player twice. 2 different series in this tournament already.
This wasn't like years ago. No, this was yesterday. You just smashed Namshar twice in 2 best-of-3s. Now you're on the stage in front of this crowd where everybody's cheering you on. Like, the pressure is on. Like,
it's hard, man. You know, especially when you're playing this sort of style. You can tell Cass here, he's put all of his Terran vs. Zerg practice into this mech style, into this very harassment, build-up-oriented macro style. This is not something where you can easily say, oh, that's fine, next game I'll do a 6 Cyclone all-in to keep my opponent guessing. There aren't a lot of these surprising all-in attacks or sort of, you know, tournament, aggressive timings that you can hit off this as easily. And I feel like Namshar's kind of just finding his way into his comfort zone, finding a standard response, rushing to the Vipers against this.
There is a particular build on Port Alexander that has been quite popular as of late, though, where you get a little ragtag group of units. You don't carry on with making mass Hellions. You actually switch into reactive Marines pretty quickly. You get the tanks out, the Banshee. It's even evolved into a battle cruiser with that, where you get on that hill on top of the third.
The beautiful bunker push, right?
Right, and if there is any map that's really good for that, this is it. So if you have to throw something like a spanner in the works to get stuff going, this could be the time to do it.
Yeah, this is a map where there are some very nice angles you can attack from. Cass is now put in a very difficult position, having to win 3 maps in a row to take down Namshar. Namshar looking more and more comfortable than ever as this series continues. We are about to launch into map number 3. This is, of course, some of the final matches from the knockout bracket to make their way through to the round of 24. It's WCS Spring. The LAN season is underway. We're in Kiev. And down here at the bottom right-hand side in the blue, the Zerg player. He is Namshar.
And currently 2-0 up and looking very fresh doing it as well. And you hear it, guys. The hometown hero, the Ukrainian legend, the destroyer of worlds. Currently 0-2 down. It is Cass. I can't emphasize enough how nice it is to see Cass back, you know?
Yeah.
Like, when I saw he went to Korea, you know, you can often see players go to Korea and it's like, is it really worth it, you know? Like, are you dominating your scene? It's like, no, I'm not dominating my scene, but maybe I want to get back into it. I want to be able to get back and be able to do that. And when he came back, he really was looking like a brand new player again. This, though, going up against Namshar, who is kind of like, he's just your all-round solid player, right? Like, if he was a Tony Hawk's character, he'd just be like 8 out of 10s across the board in every single regard, you know? Maybe he has few weaknesses, like maybe scouting's been a bit bad in the past, but here, his Overlord scouting's been very good. The continual Ling run buys as well, you always get information. So I feel that a lot of the cracks in his play, he's actually really remedied very, very well, and it's been working in wonders in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, that first game kind of looked like classic Namshar for the start, where he was kind of pinned in his corner of the map and just trying to build up, obviously struggling to deal with the ranged Liberators. But ever since kind of grabbing control of that game, he's looked more and more on top of everything. And he is continuing to open up with his hatch first plays. Cass, though, a little bit worried about the pool first options. He's going to be going for that SCV scout once again. And it's a good way to just kind of be safe with the gas first. And you can always use it to block the third hatchery as well.
There is a very obvious third that you want to take as a Zerg, which is the third further away from your opponent. So it's a nice map where you can block immediately. Now, seeing this drone go over, I think this is a trick drone.
I don't think so. Namshar's the kind of Zerg who, like, when he wants to put his third down, okay, you're right, Ben.
Big, don't argue with me. I'm 5.8k now on EU as Zerg. But like, this is definitely the third you want to take. Like the other one,
it's so much better. It's so much better.
There was a small period of time where it was like the 60 drone Roach Ravager rush that you used to annihilate, and like you could go for the more forward base. On maps like Lost and Found, I remember you go for the triangular base. But on this map in particular, it's one of the longer maps, and that third is so nice to defend. It's so nice to get creep spread going.
It's like a giant wide open area in front of it, right? Like an open field is what you want as a Zerg player. You don't want to give any angles to the Terran. And I mean, we've talked about the one angle, but it's hard to get up there for the Terran player. You know, wedging yourselves behind the gases in the fourth base, that's an awkward position to take.
Definitely, and right now, like everything very, very standard by both of these guys. We've seen a few of the mind games early on with the SCV scouts that are a bit uncommon, blocking the third, but both of them doing everything properly at the start of the game, and that's very nice to see. Just, I love seeing players learn the other one. And that truly makes it turn into an even weirder, wilder game, because you have to keep one-upping your opponent. And so far, they are both doing these kind of things to each other.
Yeah, it's that inter-series between the map adjustments that always are some of the most interesting in StarCraft. The Viking early coming out for Cass this time, finally going to be a bit more on top of denying Namshar's scouting with the Overlords. And I do like that little adjustment there. 2 Queens on the high ground, just going to be guarding this third base.
There's a few things that are unusual with it, though, right? Like, he's getting out a very early Viking, and I mean, he skipped the Marine, right? So he is going to use that to deny the Overlord that will inevitably come, because players have styles that they really stick by, and we see that Overlord right now doing its thing. And there is a tech lab already on that starport, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see, well, a Raven's an unusual choice, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of, like, fake cloaking. Maybe he lets the Overlord survive for a little moment here just to see that, and he won't actually give it away here.
Yeah.
So, definitely an unusual opening for Cass, and a very fast third with it too. Oh!
Yeah, this is something a lot of Terran Special was doing back when they first changed the Cyclone, using the Raven just to clear creep, essentially. You know, you can also, of course, use an anti-armor missile and do like a super weird jump on top of the Queen timing. If the Zerg's being a little bit too greedy and they're just relying on purely Ling Queen, you can actually overwhelm them with just like a Hellion kind of jump on top with some auto turrets behind, that sort of thing.
Oh, by the way, this is beautiful by Namshar. Even sees the Raven, sees the tech, sees the factory going up. Will he actually see the third over here too? He must know it's on the way though. Like, he must know there's a third somewhere. But the thing is, seeing that you're against mech as early as this is what I talked about, by the way. Like, I haven't known Namshar as being a really good scouter and stuff, but weaseling in those 2 Lings behind those 4 Hellions, a slight mistake of Cass allowing that to happen, not just having the Hellions at the wall, but still, you have to grab these opportunities when they happen, and that was Namshar doing exactly that. So nice by him for sure.
Viking, of course, just looking for any Overlord kills anywhere it can find them. Armory is going down behind this, as well as 2 more factories. Third CC almost done. Got to be careful with that Raven. We've seen a few sloppy Ravens in this tournament so far from different Terran players, flying in and almost going down. But it is going to join up with those Hellions, and this saves you a lot of minerals over time. The Raven is a long-term investment. You got to keep those Hellions alive for it to be worthwhile. Nice auto turret. I like that.
I'm a little surprised that Namshar was trying to engage that so much, but it just shows you the power of creep and how badly you need it against mech.
Yeah.
So he really sacrificed a lot of lings there, maybe a tad unnecessarily, but yeah, he really wants to keep that creep spread alive.
Well, I feel like if you get past a certain point, it's almost impossible for the Terran to keep it in control, right?
Yeah.
Because it's going down so many separate paths once you get past the middle of the map. And the Raven, it's such a big investment specifically to slow down the creep spread, so just the ability to take the Terran's momentum away. I love any move in StarCraft, even if it's technically not the most efficient, if it messes with what your opponent wants to do. And I think that's exactly what Namshar was looking to do there.
By the way, this game, even though we had 2 tech labs on the factories, he was still pumping out a lot of Hellions on those buildings. So his Hellion count's huge at this point in time too. He's actually getting the upgrades on time as well this time. So the Armor Starts, the Blue Flame Hellion, and also the Cyclone upgrade. There's been a few games in this series where those have been forgotten or just delayed far too much. So here I feel he's far more on top of those upgrades right now.
Yeah. Just it's a very slight supply block does cast, but it was right as his units were queuing up, so it wasn't too bad. He's starting more depots. He's got his nice little force out here ready to start poking and prodding.
This is much nicer. He put his rally on the depot. Now, this was a trick that was used by Innovation and Maru and such. If you rally to the depot itself, and there we see it exactly. So you can block the units with the rally. You don't even have to look back. So that's a nice move that he's picked up.
I love those little adjustments there. Cass not going to be letting Lings in like that last game. He is in a nicer position. Magfield accelerated that Cyclone lock-on upgrade, getting closer and closer to done. We'll be able to group all these Cyclones up. Another Link counterattack's going across while distracting Namshar. It's Roaches, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to be watching, Cass. Oh, one Cyclone goes down almost immediately. The depot doesn't get raised. Another Cyclone falls. That's a good amount of damage there for Namshar already.
Oh, even going for another one here. Will that Cyclone fall as well?
Oh!
Right now, this was an assassin squad for exactly this. Either SCVs or Cyclones, and he got both. These Cyclones, they don't build up quickly, my friends. There's only 3, in fact, is it 3 Tech Lab factories? So 3 Cyclones at a time. That is very hard to rejuvenate on.
Well, he's about to hit the moment where you can really start picking away at the Roaches. When you've got 4 or 5 Cyclones, that's when you can do it. Now suddenly it's only 3 Cyclones in this army. Cass has to be so much more careful with how he pokes and prods. The creep spread's still going on all sides. We've got the Hydras coming in as well. Another squad of Roaches going around to counterattack the north side. This is just such nice play from Namshar.
By the way, super weird upgrade choices by Namshar this game. He went +1 missile, +1 carapace. Now he's prioritizing +2 carapace over the +2 missile. So
yeah, that's a little weird, isn't it?
I would have to predict that maybe that was just the chaos of the game, a bit of nerves coming in here. Maybe he thought he got both on the way, or thought he got just one on the way.
Maybe a little gas short, something like that. Definitely not a good argument for going carapace over attack. When it's all about damage output, you need to shut these units down before they can deal the damage to you. Spire on the way behind this, but a Roach Hydra Viper force is up for Namshar, and he's continuing to backstab Roaches, just branching their way around the flanks of this map. Every time Cass comes forward, we see Namshar threatening on the sides.
Did Cass just go... Okay, Cass is actually up to 8 factories right now, so he is full-blown battle mech. He's got 4 bases up now. This isn't yet a PF, and Namshar, again, he's been so persistent with this kind of run-by.
Oh, and he's distracting at the front, specifically trying to pull Cass's attention away. He's achieved his goal here, and he allows all of the Roaches to slide into that natural expansion.
This is a SCV massacre. Namshar even managing to push on the front as well. 15 Hydras in production. He's up to 80 drones as well. He's getting so much damage done everywhere, even in the main base here.
Gets into the third base.
Oh, the Biles as well.
The Raven goes down as well. A lot of the expensive Ravagers and Hydras get out of there. 35 workers down, and it's still going. It's not over. There's still Roaches in that main base. This is such a fragile composition. It's so hard to control in multiple areas at once, and Namshar exploiting the weakness of Cass's unit's choice. He's still got Roaches in that main base picking away. This is a nightmare for the Ukrainian Terran.
Yeah, I mean, whatever happened in those series before, it real feels like Namshar showed up here today. And that's the thing, right? You can have one kind of bad day, but he still stayed alive in this new knockout format. He managed to come back in the tournament, goes up against the guy that beat him twice already, and now he's looking so good. This Hydra army, the Abducts as well. These vulnerable Cyclones, even a Blinding Cloud, he's pushing for victory here. But Cass kind of holding on, but with what? He has 38 SCVs at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his +2 armor about to finish. He's got a good little pack of Cyclones and Hellions. This Roach still in the back of the base.
That's why you got the +2 armor, just for a moment like this against the Hellions.
Oh man, it's going to take out 2 Hellions. Oh, that is the most annoying Roach in the world. We see Namshar continuing to branch around with the counterattacks. He's going to be able to jump on this 4th and snipe it down
Oh, and there's no
before the
SCVs
units
there
can
to
be.
repair either. I mean,
Yeah.
this was already probably going to die in this kind of situation, but with no SCVs either, this situation goes from bad to really bad.
Namshar just putting on a clinic of how to adjust and deal with this specific style of battle mech. The Viper usage has been insane. The Roach usage has been fantastic. And Namshar with a big turnaround after losing 2 series in that second group stage yesterday. Early yesterday, he fell to Cass twice in some epic long series. Today, he gets his revenge in the match that matters the most. He's going to be going through to that final bracket into the round of 24.
You got to applaud Namshar. He really brought it today and mixed up his style a little bit. Also evolved to his opponents and what he was doing. Cass, though, this is it for him in this tournament, but he did a really good job.
Yeah.
Honestly, he made it way further than I ever thought he would, and he displayed some really good games in this tournament.
Yeah, this was just a great performance there. I can't wait to hear from Namshar himself. He's over there on the stage with Smix.
Thank you very much, Pig. Congratulations, Namshar. Very clean-cut, solid victory, 3-0 for you. Not only do you survive moving through this knockout bracket, but you also get revenge on Cass after the 2 losses you suffered from him in the group stage 2. So first of all, what are your thoughts?
I really wanted that revenge, so it feels really good to get the 3-0 especially. And yeah, he played really good in the group stage. I was struggling with the late game that he was playing. But yeah, I was kind of able to find my groove and just stay confident and stay focused. And I think I was able to play better this time around.
What were your biggest takeaways? Because especially now that you knew this was do or die time, I'm sure coming in and knowing you're having to face Cass once again, you know, what was your game plan headed into facing him?
I was just trying to think over that if I get to that same scenario that I was in the group stage in the late game, I was just trying to figure out in my head what my game plan would be. And just trying to find confidence in what I wanted to play. And when I had established what I wanted to do, I just felt like more comfortable overall and was able to stay comfortable and stay focused and not worry about it too much.
For sure, and that definitely came out as it was such a solid 3-0 victory for you. I need to ask about map number 1, as there was a moment where almost all of your Vipers died. In that moment, you know, what went through your head? You know, did you feel still comfortable because you had that upgrade advantage, or did you kind of freak out?
I felt like I was still in an okay spot, but that was a big mistake, so I was kind of pissed at myself for just leaving them there and forgetting about them. So it kind of sucked, but yeah, thankfully it worked out still in that game, but yeah, that was a pretty big mistake.
And now in this tournament, you've primarily been playing Zergs and Terrans, but next up your opponent is going to be a Protoss and Probe. So how do you feel right now about your ZVP?
I actually feel pretty good in my server's Protoss right now, and I'm just going to try not to underestimate him, because clearly he's shown a good performance so far. And just try to play my game, and I think I feel good about it.
Awesome. Well, congratulations once again in surviving in this knockout bracket. But Kairos, back to you.
That's right, revenge is sweet there as Namshar is able to push himself through into the round of 24. His opponent is going to be Probe there in the round of 24. So an exciting time for Namshar to keep himself alive after things looked dire in the previous 2 fixtures going up against Cass. Joining me to my left-hand side, I have Maynard and I have Mr. Rotterdam. Guys, that was actually a little bit unexpected for myself. A 3-0 after we saw the other series not handedly going to Cass, but going to Cass, and then Cass not even getting himself a map this time. Namshar really showed up.
I think map 1 was definitely touch and go there for a bit. Cass certainly had potential to win that game. That flank in the end on King's Cove was where Namshar got the victory. Then Cass picking off like a 7 or 8 like Vipers in the middle of the map was pretty nice. But yeah, and then the rest, you're right, the rest of the series was a little bit Namshar favor for sure. Like you just sort of ran away with it. Great games, and I love this build, by the way. I'm stealing this for when I come home.
Oh yeah.
A ranged Liberator here on King's Cove looks so strong.
I bet this felt like a game that Cass really should have won, right? At least to Cass himself, especially when he got all the Vipers in the middle of the map. You're like, all right, this is it, you know, this is all I need. But Namshar was just so freaking rich. Yeah, this is that moment that I meant. But look at this, like, it looks disastrous when you look at the amount of minerals Namshar has in the bank. And I think for Cass, this was just a very frustrating one and perhaps never really mentally recovered from it.
His upgrades are really, really hurting right now as well. That 3-3 against 1-1, 2-2. Not even started, he's actually just got +2 attack barely beginning there. So his army's just a lot flimsy. It looks good, everything looks great, especially after that Viper catch, which was like a minute before that, but then it's an easy counterattack for Namshar. Getting across the map and putting the nail in that coffin in game 1.
Yeah, definitely. And then from there on, doing so much economical damage, and that's how it goes.
That's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say.
Yeah, that's they do. Plenty of Vipers to get those abducts going on as well. So really doing very well there for Namshar. And then going into game number 2, of course, Rotterdam. What did you see from that as a whole here between Cass and Namshar?
Let's take a look at the highlights.
Let's see what we've got.
Because I've also been watching the other TvZ that you put me on. All right, this is the Kairos Junction game. Well, James, I've got nothing, okay? A lot of run-bys this game. Non-stop run-bys.
There was
Raise your
actually 2 or 3
depots,
run-bys.
Mr. MMR Police. They should keep the door shut.
And that's a nice supply block there, Mr. MMR Police.
Yeah. No, that actually kept happening over and over again. I did notice that. But once again, it just felt that Namshar, his economy was rock solid throughout his entire best of 5. It really felt like he was never really getting outmined, and he always just had so much that he could make trades. And even if it would go wrong once or twice with the Vipers, he was just so rich all the time.
Apparently, the MMR police got nothing to say about breaking an entry, I guess, is what we're taking away from all of
The
that.
shot of the cast fan in the crowd. When cast wins, I say yes. When he loses, I say
like,
no.
Say no.
The GG Lords.
Yeah, there they are. And he's only got, what, there's that 2 Vikings there, 0 Thors. That's a bad news bear situation right there for Terran.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, we'll take a look at game number 3 here for a moment as well. But the main point to take away from all of these highlights is that while this was going on and Namshar makes himself a great recovery, there were other games going on as well that you guys were watching and paying more attention to here, since we've got so many matches going on in that knockout bracket. So, little Lings getting themselves in on again here.
Getting a cheeky peek. This is exactly the build here. Oh, I actually missed one, missed the 3rd CC. But
sure.
I mean, this game ends up being a Namshar win in the end, obviously, and it looks very similar to game 2 and game 1 in that Namshar just got up to Hive. You can see that he's got Hive on the way here at 7.5 minutes and shoots up the Vipers very, very fast, which is so strong against Caster's style.
And also, I just love that he was able to get a couple of minor trades here and there. I mean, previous games was Ling run-bys, this time he got Roach run-bys, but he often grabbed himself a couple of those Cyclones here and there as well. So this battle mag that really is supposed to get some momentum, right? It's supposed to be Cass getting those awesome trades. You lock on a couple of units, you drive away, you keep your opponent at bay. It just really felt like, yeah, Namshar's like, yeah, I know what you want to do, but we're not going to make that happen. Run-bys, non-stop trades, obviously off the back of a great economy, and I think obviously Namshar played a very strong and successful series.
Absolutely. The lock-on is almost a pseudo attempt to like abduct. You know, you're focusing one target down and being able to bring that down and slowly picking away at an opponent's army. And these are the results that have come in so far from the knockout bracket. We still have a few fixtures that have not concluded yet. Of course, they're in the top half of the upper bracket, but the 2-2 currently are Mana and Kelazar, and Zanster and Bly in a 2-1 situation right now. However, I think that we just had a little bit of an update there, Rotterdam.
Yep. The live update is that Zanster has just tied up the series. I've been watching those games. Bly took a 2-0 lead, and I was incredibly impressed by the way he did it. Off the back of a lot of Muda play. Of course, a couple 12 pools, but he didn't win those games early on. He won it off the back of some very strong mid-game play. I'm like, damn, man, Bly is kind of owning Zenz here. I didn't expect it, but now Zenz has really turned it around. He won game 3 off the back of some great fungals. Got like 15 Mudas multiple times. Game 4 just ended. It was a rather short one. Bly this time went back to the 12 pool. He had a lot of success with. But yeah, Zenz tied it up. So the Swedish Zerg representing Storm Gaming, sending us to game 5.
Nice. So we still technically have 2 Ukrainian players alive in the tournament, with Bly being potentially 1 map away from elimination or actually advancing on to the round of 24. And we also have Hellraiser later on here. So there is still the potential that we actually have some home country participation, maybe on the stage, maybe kind of in the later stages of the tournament, which is really cool.
Certainly doable. That home ground advantage seems to work out a lot for players. It is a real thing, the home crowd does get your spirits up, most likely.
I mean, Cass almost made it into the final bracket stage.
It's
And
the best tournament in a really long time. for
absolutely, I don't think anybody coming into this tournament would have said to themselves, yeah, Cass, a guaranteed shoo-in for that final bracket, right, Rotterdam? I mean, considering what we've seen in the past couple of years.
Yeah, of course. I do think it makes sense to maybe have some expectations since he did go to Korea and he's clearly taking the game very serious again. And I think online he's been doing a little bit better as well. On the ladder he's been doing a little bit better. So it's not like it came out of nowhere. But I still think it probably doesn't feel that great for Cass because he loses in the end against a guy that he already managed to defeat twice in this tournament and 3 out of the last 4 times they played.
Yes.
So even though it's a good run, I think it still feels a bit disappointing for Cass.